Imagine this. You wake up one morning to find your phone flooded with messages. Some urgent, some trivial, all demanding your attention. A colleague needs a last-minute favor. A friend vents about their latest crisis. A family member expects an immediate reply. You feel the familiar pull, the weight of obligation settling into your muscles like a second skin. But today, something shifts. Today, you don't respond. Silence. At first, it's unnerving. The absence of your usual compliance creates a vacuum, a quiet so loud it echoes in your chest. Then, something stranger happens. The world doesn't end. The messages slow. The demands dissipate. And in that stillness, a revelation creeps in. What if your constant availability wasn't a virtue, but a trap? Here's the unsettling paradox. We live in an age of unprecedented connection, yet so many of us feel emptier, more fragmented than ever. We've conflated responsiveness with worth, mistaking our ability to be reached for being irreplaceable. But what if the opposite were true? What if the moment you stop being available, truly stop, everything changes? Consider the modern myth of productivity. The belief that if you're not always on, you're falling behind. We've built identities around being the reliable one, the go-to person, the one who never says no. But beneath that lies a darker truth, an unspoken fear that if we pause, we'll be forgotten. That our value is tied to our utility. Why does this fear grip us so deeply? Why does the mere thought of unplugging feel like stepping off a cliff? The answer lies in a psychological sleight of hand. From childhood, we're conditioned to equate love, approval, and security with our ability to meet expectations. A good child is obedient. A good employee is always reachable. A good friend is endlessly accommodating. These invisible contracts bind us, not because they're true, but because we've never dared to question them. But here's the twist. The more you make yourself available, the more the world takes you for granted. Your time becomes common currency, your energy a public resource. And in the quietest hours, when the screens dim and the notifications cease, you're left with a haunting question. Who am I when no one needs me? This isn't just about boundaries. It's about sovereignty. The difference between being a participant in your life and a hostage to others' demands. The moment you stop being available isn't just an act of refusal. It's a declaration. I exist beyond your urgency. And that's where the real shift begins. Because when you withdraw your constant presence, something extraordinary happens. People start to notice your absence. They begin to value what was once assumed. But more importantly, you start to notice yourself. The parts of you buried under the weight of others' expectations. The desires muffled by the noise of compliance. This is the great unraveling. The first step toward a life where your worth isn't measured in responses, but in resonance. Where your time isn't a given, but a gift. But be warned, this path isn't for the faint of heart. It requires facing the discomfort of silence, the terror of disappointing others, the vulnerability of saying, enough. So let me ask you, what are you so afraid of losing? And what could you gain if you dared to disappear? The answer lies in the next revelation, the hidden forces that keep us chained to our own availability. And trust me, they're more insidious than you think. You've felt it before. That gnawing guilt when you don't reply immediately. The subtle anxiety when you're not where others expect you to be. It's as if an invisible hand is always tugging at your sleeve, whispering, you owe them. You must be there. But who decided this? Where does this unspoken law come from? The answer lies in the deepest layers of human psychology and the philosophical undercurrents that shape our modern world. The tyranny of should, Carl Jung once wrote. The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. And yet, we spend our lives running from this acceptance, molding ourselves into what we should be rather than what we are. The compulsion to be constantly available isn't just a habit. It's a survival mechanism, a way to secure our place in the tribe. In prehistoric times, exclusion meant death. Today, it merely feels like it. The fear of being cast out, of losing social standing, drives us to remain perpetually on call. We mistake this conditioning for virtue, calling it responsibility or kindness, when in truth, it's often just fear in disguise. But here's the darker truth. Society doesn't just allow this exploitation, it depends on it. The machinery of modern enslavement philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre warned, "Hell is other people." But he wasn't speaking of people themselves. He meant the gaze of others, the way their expectations become our prison. The modern world has weaponized this gaze. Think about it. Capitalism thrives on your availability. The gig economy, hustle culture, and always-on workspaces feed on the myth that rest is laziness. Social media monetizes your attention. Every notification is a tiny slot machine lever, conditioning you to respond, react, and remain engaged. Relationships, too, have been distorted. We've conflated being needed with being loved, mistaking constant contact for genuine connection. The result? A life where your time is no longer yours, where your silence is seen as neglect, your absence as betrayal. The illusion of indispensability. Viktor Frankl, survivor of the Holocaust and author of Man's Search for Meaning, observed that those who survived the camps weren't always the strongest. They were those who held on to a sense of purpose beyond mere survival. Yet today, we've twisted purpose into perpetual busyness. We tell ourselves, if I'm not available, things will fall apart. But will they? Or is this just another story we've been sold? History's most revolutionary minds, Nietzsche, Schopenhauer, Huxley, all understood one thing. True freedom begins when you stop playing by the rules you didn't choose. The cost of constant connection. Neurologically, we're not built for this. The brain's reward system lights up when we respond. Dopamine for being needed, serotonin for being praised. But over time, this becomes an addiction. We lose the ability to sit with ourselves, to tolerate stillness. Even worse, we lose something far more precious, the ability to choose what matters. Because when you're always available, you're never truly present. You're a ghost in your own life, haunting the edges of other people's demands. The fork in the road, so here's the question. Will you keep feeding the machine? Or will you step off the conveyor belt? Will you let others define your worth? Or will you reclaim the right to disappear? This isn't about selfishness. It's about sovereignty. But be warned. The moment you pull back, the system will push back harder. It will call you cold, unreliable, even cruel. It will test your resolve. Because the world doesn't change for those who ask permission. It changes for those who take it. And the most shocking part? The consequences of your absence will reveal more than you ever imagined. You pull back. You stop answering every call, replying to every message, bending to every expectation. At first, it feels like stepping off a moving train. Your body braces for impact, but the ground is steady beneath you. Then, slowly, the world adjusts. But something else happens. Something you didn't anticipate. The backlash of boundaries, the first time you say no, people are surprised. The second time, they're annoyed. By the third, some will be furious. This isn't just about inconvenience, it's about power. Your refusal disrupts an unspoken hierarchy, one where your compliance was assumed. And when people can no longer take your time for granted, they react in ways that reveal uncomfortable truths. The nice ones turn cold. The colleague who always just needed a quick favor suddenly stops smiling. The friend who relied on your free therapy sessions grows distant. Their kindness was conditional on you playing your role. The guilt trips begin. I thought you cared. I guess I'll just handle it alone. Emotional blackmail is the last resort of those who fear losing control over you. You see who really values you. A few people won't flinch. They'll respect your limits without question. These are the rare ones, the ones who wanted you, not your utility. This backlash isn't a sign you're wrong. It's proof you're right. The void where your identity used to be. Here's the harder part. When you stop being constantly needed, you're left with silence. And in that silence, a terrifying question arises. Who am I when I'm not serving others? For years, your worth was tied to your usefulness. Now, untethered, you float in empty space. This is the withdrawal phase, the existential hangover after a lifetime of people-pleasing. You might realize you don't know what you actually enjoy anymore. Your opinions were often just echoes of others. You've built a personality around being needed, not known. This isn't emptiness, it's potential. The system fights back. Society doesn't reward those who opt out. It punishes them. Workplaces will call you uncommitted if you refuse overtime. Friendships will wither if you're no longer an emotional crutch. Family may accuse you of selfishness for setting limits. But this isn't rejection, it's selection. The people who remain are the ones who truly matter. The hidden freedom. As the noise fades, something unexpected happens. Your creativity surges. Solitude is the birthplace of original thought. Your decisions grow stronger. Without outside pressure, you hear yourself clearly. Your relationships deepen. The ones left are built on choice, not obligation. You begin to recognize the most subversive truth of all. The world doesn't collapse when you stop holding it up. But this is only the beginning, because now comes the hardest and most liberating part, the rebellion. The moment you realize you've been living by invisible rules, rules you never agreed to, is the moment your rebellion begins. This isn't about small adjustments or polite compromises. This is about rewriting the contract of your existence. The first act of defiance, disappearing history's most transformative figures, artists, philosophers, revolutionaries, all shared one tactic: strategic withdrawal. Nietzsche fled to the mountains to write. Emily Dickinson barricaded herself in her room to compose poetry that would outlive empires. The mystics of every tradition sought caves, deserts, and forests, not to escape the world, but to rediscover it. Your first act of rebellion is simple. Remove yourself, deliberately and often, not as a passive retreat, but as a declaration of sovereignty. Let the world feel your absence. Let them wonder. Let them adapt. The art of the unanswerable. Most demands don't require your response. They require your compliance. Break the script. When someone says, "I need this from you by tomorrow," ask, "Why?" When met with, "But you always help," reply, "And what has that taught you?" When guilt creeps in with, "I'll be stuck without you," smile and say, "Then you'll figure it out." These aren't cruel responses. They're corrective. You're teaching people how to treat you by revealing the absurdity of their expectations. The power of the unreachable. In medieval Japan, samurai practiced mushin, a state of detached readiness. They were present, but never predictable. You must cultivate the same energy. Disable read receipts. Let people wonder if you've seen their message. Create blackout periods. Hours or days where you're simply gone. Become a ghost when necessary. No explanations, no apologies, just silence. This isn't about being rude. It's about reclaiming mystery. The moment people realize they can't map your behavior, their respect for you grows. The counterintuitive truth: scarcity creates value. Economics teaches that when something is abundant, it's taken for granted. When it's rare, it's treasured. The less available you are, the more your presence becomes a gift, not an entitlement. The less you explain yourself, the more others listen when you do speak. The less you rush to fill silences, the more your words carry weight. This is the secret of kings, artists, and legends. They knew when to vanish. The final barrier: your own fear. The greatest resistance won't come from others. It will come from your own mind. What if they stop liking me? Then they never liked you. They liked what you did for them. What if I miss out? You're already missing out on yourself. What if I'm not needed anymore? Good. Now you can be wanted instead. Rebellion isn't a one-time act. It's a daily practice of choosing yourself over the world's hunger. But this is only the prelude, because beyond rebellion lies the ultimate truth, the one that changes everything. You've pulled back. You've said no. You've let the world spin without your hand on the wheel. And now, in the quiet that follows, comes the revelation that changes everything. You were never meant to be available. Not like this. Not in the way they demanded. The myth of the indispensable self. We've been taught that to matter is to be needed, that our worth is measured in how much we sacrifice, how much we endure, how much we give. But this is the oldest lie of all. The truth? You are not a function. You are not a resource. You are not an algorithm designed for maximum utility. You are a living paradox, both essential and expendable. The world will continue without you, yes, but the right world, the one that deserves you, will adjust to your absence, not resent it. The alchemy of absence. In nature, silence is not emptiness. It is preparation. A field left fallow regains its fertility. A forest fire clears space for new growth. Winter's freeze is what makes spring possible. Your withdrawal is not abandonment. It is reclamation. Every moment you refuse to be where you're expected, you create space for what actually matters. The final realization: you were free. All along. The chains were never locked. The door was never bolted. The only thing keeping you in place was your own belief that you had to stay. This is the ultimate rebellion: to act as if you were always free. Not because the world allows it, but because you no longer ask permission. The invitation. So here is the choice that remains. Will you keep feeding a system that confuses exhaustion for honor? Or will you become the quiet earthquake, the one who changes everything simply by refusing to play? The world will try to pull you back. It will whisper that you're selfish, that you're failing, that you're letting everyone down. Let it whisper. You'll be too far gone to hear it. If this video has made you see the world differently, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel here. We don't go with the flow. We question, reflect, and seek to understand the truths that no one wants you to see. If you want to continue this journey of self-discovery and liberation, hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications, because this is just the beginning. See you in the next video.